Right, today we're going to learn how to take a background image and we're going to put this in on our portrait image that we plan on turning into a pop art. So we want to change out the background. The only thing that we really need to keep is our nice lighting and the good pose that we have of our model that we photographed for our Andy Warhol inspired pop art image. So you should have a nice good image with good eye contact, some hands hopefully as a prop, and a close-up shot, heads and shoulders. And once you have that image opened in Photoshop, so you want to make sure you open that image up in Photoshop. Here is my image. I've got a nice hand position. My model is laying on the floor, good eye contact, and what I'm going to do now is turn this into a pop art image. But first I have to change out the background. I'm going to be using this flower print here for our new background. So let's open up our directions on how to change out the background. You just need to make sure that your background image is at least 1024 by 768 pixels. It needs to be a JPEG and it needs to be a color image. You can use search terms such as fun, bright backgrounds, swirly line, paisley prints, geometric fun colors, disco color backgrounds, psychedelic colors, flower designs. Any of these are good search terms. Make sure there is good contrast and not a dark image. So these little images here are some good examples. Make sure there is no watermark running through the image. Alright, so let's go and look at bright, fun backgrounds. You're going to click on Tools, Size. You're going to go to larger than 1024 by 768 pixels. And you'll see that you've got a variety of images here. Make sure you don't pick something like this where you have like a little swirly white watermark, or this one has stock, so this is like a stock image. So make sure you don't have anything like that. A good image that would work is something that has good contrast, such as these stars. These have good contrast. This wallpaper where it's just lines of colors. This image here has some good contrast. Here's our floral print that we're going to be using. So these are all good. This one's also good, like gummy worms in the background. So you want to open up the image. You want to double check the image size here. Do a right click on the image, save image as, and make sure you put them in your digital photo. Go to your documents, digital photo, pop art folder, and save it in there with your portrait image. And once you do that, then you go ahead and open that image up in Photoshop. So here it is. Here it's opened up in Photoshop, and here's the portrait that I'm going to be using. All right, so let's go back to our directions. Yeah, you want to make sure you save your image in Documents, Digital Photo, Pop Art folder. And you can follow all these directions here. Okay, so the first step you need to do is you need to copy and paste this floral print over your portrait image. So you're going to go to that image, and there's a couple ways you can select this. You can go up to Select All, or you can do Control A, all right, and then go to Edit, Copy, or you can do Control C on the keyboard. Go to your image and go to Edit, Paste. All right, so now we pasted it on here, but we got to move this. So I'm going to use my moving tool here, and I'm going to make sure my Show Transform controls are selected. And I'm going to rotate this image so that it is vertical, because my image is vertical, and so I want it to fit over my image. So I'm going to move this up to the top like that. And I'm going to stretch it out a little bit, stretch it down, and I don't want it to look too like disproportioned. So I'm going to like stretch it down a little bit. And once I kind of like the placement of this, I'm going to click on the check mark. If your image is vertical, such as mine, you're going to want to have your image, your background image be vertical. If your image is horizontal, then just keep it horizontal, and that's fine. So let's go back to our directions. All right, so you can see in the directions how I am moving it into place. I want to add a vector mask, which is on my which is along the right corner, bottom right. So I'm going to come down here and I'm going to add a vector mask to my layer 1, which is right here, my layer mask. I'm going to add that here. And what I want to do is I want to be able to see my model underneath, so I'm going to move this opacity down to about 20. You could even go lower if you wanted to, like you could go all the way 100, like to 0% to see your model. So I'm going to bring it back in just a little bit. And I'm going to click on a nice soft brush. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 tools down on this vertical toolbar. Nice soft brush. Make sure I have a nice soft brush over here. Not too large of a brush. I could make it slightly bigger. That's probably about right. About 300 is probably good. Around there. And then I'm going to make sure I have my black over white. So I'm going to click on my little arrow toggle key to have my black over white. And what I'm going to do now is make sure this is at 100% opacity. And I'm going to remove the background from my model. So I'm going to be a little careful, and I'm not going to go to the edge of my model just quite yet. So if I put this back at 100% opacity, you can see how it's starting to disappear, how the background is starting to disappear. Just going to bring that down a little bit, and I'm just going to be really careful about the edge of my model. I don't want to go all the way to the edge of my model quite yet. Let's look at our directions. So you can see here that we're starting to remove some of the background from my model, and your model is going to start to look like a silhouette. Alrighty, so let's go back to this. If I put this at 100%, it's kind of starting to look like a silhouette, but I still need to remove more. So what I recommend you do is do a Control plus on your keyboard. Control plus and zoom in on your image. I'm going to move that over, and I'm going to open up my navigator so I can move this around a little bit. So I go to Window, Navigator, and now I can move this around a little bit, and I can put my brush right up to the edge of her hair. And I'm going to use the bracket key on my keyboard to make my brush a little smaller, or I'm going to make it, just put it to 125. And I'm going to go right along the edge of the figure here. You're going to notice that this is going to really start to look like a silhouette on the layer mask. And I'm just removing the background. And if I put this at 100% opacity, we can see how it's starting to look here. I'm going to make my brush even smaller and really carefully go along the edge here. Now I'm starting to get a little bit of the background removed, so I could always reverse this where I have white over black, and that'll put some of the background back in again. Or I can put black over white and continue to remove the background. So let's move the opacity down a little bit so that I can really see where the edge of her hair is. I'm going to go all the way around this way. All around the edge of her hair, all around the edge of her body. Put that back up to like 100% opacity so I can check that out. Okay. Put that back down. Looks like I got more. I got to move here, remove here. And move my navigator down a little bit. Okay, and move my navigator down again to see like where the edge of her shirt is. And in the middle here, I could just make a nice big brush and make sure all this is gone. Put the bring that up and I can check. Looks like the bottom edge is good. Put that down again so I can see what I'm doing. All right, so I'm gonna, it's just like leaning on a scarf. So I'm gonna make that scarf actually just become part of the background. That up again so I can see what I'm doing here. So you can see that I have to keep kind of adjusting the opacity back and forth to see what I'm doing. Bring my navigator up. All right, let's put this at 100% and let's see if she looks pretty good against that. And the back out, control minus. Looks like her hair is still needs to be, some of it needs to be removed from her hair, control plus. Go up to the top a little more here and just double check everything. Okay. All right, so then after you do this, the final step is to, okay, so the final step is to flatten this image now that I have my background put in place. So what I have to do is I have to come up here to image, I'm sorry, layer, that's what I meant to say, layer, flatten image, because I have to combine both layers. Because when you start your pop art, you can only have one layer. You can only have a background. So let's save that. File, save as, and we're going to call this pop art portrait underscore your first initial last name. And just make sure this gets, in fact, let's call this Pop Art 1, okay? Because we're going to end up actually making 4 versions of this. So we're going to call this Pop Art Portrait 1 underscore your first initial last name, and make sure it goes into your documents, digital photo, pop art folder that you've created, okay? So make sure it goes into your pop art digital photo pop art folder, and make sure you save it as a PSD file. It absolutely has to be a PSD file. And then save that, and you are now ready to follow the pop art video tutorial.